Even in the dead of winter, we can have beauty, such as this Camellia sasanqua that's in bloom in December. Only in the winter can we study the forms in its natural shape. When the leaves come on, it will be so difficult to see the actual form. This is a great time to study and be prepared for spring as the new leaves emerge. This is a Chinese elm for maybe 20 years, probably total of 30 or 35 years old. It's quite large in that for a while in the ground and started to style after it had gotten its girth. It's unusual in that it has 1, 2, 3, 4 apexes and quite striking and large at the same time. I like to call this my student. As a teacher, you hope that one day that one of your students will surpass you and carry on. So the symbolism behind this is that the large apex or the trunk represents hopefully myself, and this taller branch that is less thick represents one of my prized students. I don't know who that is yet, but that is my hope for the future. This Japanese maple was probably started after World War II. I don't know exactly when, but it was one of my uncles that I inherited. It's had some rough times after I inherited it, I was landscaping and was too busy to work on it, and sometime it got neglected. The scar you see is because it got sunburned, but as you work on it, it starts to become one of the interesting elements of a total bonsai. By no means is this finished. I am continuing to work on it, and hopefully in another decade or so it will be something worthy of passing on to the next generation. It has a great start in that it has a massive trunk with a fairly nice taper. It needs refinement and detailing. I think you'll see this tree in the future as it starts to develop more and more. But this is the winter, and this is the best time to see how the structure actually is. Once the leaves come on, the total presentation will be nice, but it'll be very difficult to study the trunk, which is the main part, in detail. Of trying to get some color during the winter months. This is still December, and this is a pyracantha. So nice to see vibrant green and contrasting red. I did have a problem with pyracantha in the past where I displayed it in a more prominent spot, and the blue jays came and ate the berries. This is a Nandina or heavenly bamboo. It's the dwarf variety, but see the beautiful color that it gets in the fall into the winter. In terms of Bonsai may not be highly revered for its styling, but within your collection, if you had a few like this, it just gives you some of the most striking colors when you have everything that is dormant or not looking at its best. In the Chinese elm, there's such a variation that even in the dead of winter, when it should be dormant here in this colder part of the state, we have some that still have green and others that are completely dormant. And for Chinese elms, that is the normal. Most of the elms go dormant, but for some reason we have some that still maintains the green. Old, it was left to me by my uncle, so it has nice aged look. Style is refined. It needs to be completed with a little bit more detail. Unfortunately, in the 20 some odd years that I had it, I have been so busy with landscaping and other projects that I haven't spent the time to detail it out. So in the next 5 to 10 years, I plan to do that. But having a tree of age gives you that the bark that you can't get any other way. Actually, I bought the seed, produced the seedling, and after about 15 years, this is how far I've gotten. There's ways to go, and you notice that my training method on this one and many others is instead of the wire, I use a string. The jute that I'm using is really good in that just about the time you need to take it off, it will wear out and fall off. So I have to just clean it up. I do a lot of things like that because I am in the commercial. I'm going to show you this wisteria tree. It was not my intention to put my cat in there, but Ninja wanted to be in the picture. The only reason that I'm showing you this is so that you'll have the contrast between this now in the dead of winter and as it comes out of dormancy. This has been one of the most consistent flowering wisterias that I've ever had. And the cat that you just saw is a stray that just showed up one day, and it's probably the best cat that I've ever had too. So let's see what the cat's doing now. This is one of my it was a pear tree that I had for landscape use, and because they're such a rapid grower, the roots came out of the can and started to grow much bigger than it was suitable for the can. I decided to make it into a bonsai, but I noticed that as I was working on it that this root had come off the side, and was debating what to do with it. But you know, in bonsai there are some of your basic rules for beginners, but as you get into more advanced work, you just gotta go with the flow. So I decided I'm gonna try to make something different out of this guy here. Don't know what to salute. This is a ginkgo plant that I've had for more than 20 years. It's just beginning to form a character of its own. I have the feeling that it might be another decade or longer before it's considered finished. This is a Seijuan elm, and you notice that I'm using a stick and I'm tying the branches to get the movement in the trunk. Especially in the training stages, the last thing you want to do is to put the wire on, because what happens is that this stage they grow so rapidly, unless you pay very close attention to wires, it will do damage so quickly. And I'm finding that the least amount of wire used in the rough training stage is beneficial. This is an olive that I salvaged from a landscape job. It was destined to be dumped into the field or ground up as mulch. One thing about olives is that they can be transplanted almost any time with success, although best time would be when it's warmer. I've done olives in the middle of summer, but spring and in the fall when it's still warm is much safer. And don't fear the size. Even very large olives can easily be transplanted.